Okay, and welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide. And today we have a very special guest. Today we are speaking with Daniel Blue. Daniel is a regular contributor to Forbes.com and the owner of Quest Education, a company that helps entrepreneurs obtain capital for their companies, pay off high interest debt, and use self-directed retirement accounts to invest in alternative assets. With over 10 years of educating small business owners, Daniel has a knack for helping individuals get creative with their finances that lead to life-changing results. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Giuseppe, thank you for having me.
Thanks. Looking forward to it. So I always like to kind of start our shows with giving the audience just some context of kind of, yet entrepreneurial journey, where you started and what made you make the shift from W-2 employee to business owner.
Yeah, I wish I had this cool Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V story where it's like I was an entrepreneur out the womb. I was selling baseball cards, in middle school and, slanging this and that and making money as a side hustle in high school. But that wasn't me, man. I was playing sports, hanging out in Southern California as a kid. Didn't really have ambitions on knowing where I wanted to be. I kind of just stumbled into entrepreneurship. But things really changed when I was 12 years old. I went from having two parents in the home to just one parent, and it was just my mom and I. Dad ended up moving to Mexico when I was 12. So from there on out, it was just my mom, single mom. She's a social worker, so she's working a lot of hours, which left me with a lot of unsupervised time. And I used that time to just kind of get into some shenanigans. I just stumbled through middle school and high school and barely graduated. And when I was 18 years old, Giuseppe, there's three things that really shaped my future. One, I ended up getting a woman pregnant. Two, I ended up getting addicted to OxyContin. And then three, I ended up dropping out of college. And, here I am, blessed to own a financial company with, 13 W-2 employees, where we've got, customers in all 50 states. And a lot of business owners in the financial space probably don't have, that kind of journey, right? Maybe they went to a college, they went to Duke or, some prestigious college. That wasn't me. But if you're listening to this right now, you probably took an unorthodox path as well. We all have kind of our story that shapes us, that gets us to, where we are, and we have to overcome some kind of adversity. I think it's fascinating if you look at, successful people in the music industry, the sports world, the business world. There's some kind of moment in their life, challenge that they overcame, where they were able to just have a huge breakthrough. And I'm no different, just like you are no different. You listening to the show right now, but just stumbled into sales at 18, 19 years old. I found that I had a knack in sales. I worked as a W-2 employee for a number of years, and establishing a network was massive, Giuseppe, because I came with some disadvantages. Right, I didn't have a college degree. Didn't come from with a family that had money. I didn't have a family full of entrepreneurs that could kind of show me the way. So networking has been massive, and we can't underestimate relationships. Like you're one relationship away from really seeing a huge result. And maybe it's not that one person that gets you in the door, but it's that one person that knows that one person, that introduces you to that one person, that gives you that promotion, that gives you that new job, that you do a JV deal with and start a business with, right? So networking has been key in terms of just knowing the right people and surrounding myself with people that could help elevate me.
Yeah, and that's why I really enjoyed the show. I always like asking people what that journey looked like, because it's not this straight line path. In high school or before that, it wasn't like, I want to be in the franchise business. I want to be a franchisee. No one says that. So you don't know what you want to be. It was a soccer player one year, and then it was a musician the next. And I think it's all about learning, from the experiences. I don't believe in regrets or mistakes to an extent. I mean, sometimes there are regrets or mistakes, but you hear about people's stories and the experiences they went through. That's what made them maybe bigger family man or more, successful business owner. So there's lots of stories and lots of books, and it's really interesting. So I appreciate you sharing. To your point about networking, I talk about this book all the time, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. And it's to your point exactly. It's not about figuring out what you want to do and how you're going to go about it. It's figuring out what you want to do and who's going to help you get there, and essentially leverage other people's experiences and that network to help you get to where you want to be much quicker. So I definitely want to applaud you for saying that, because I could not agree. Couldn't agree more with that. So talk to us a little bit about your business now. Name of your company, and who do you help? Who do you assist?
Yeah, so our mission is to help people access money in their retirement account, penalty and tax-free. So I own a company called Quest Education, and we serve entrepreneurs who like the idea of accessing their IRAs or 401ks, penalty and tax-free, before they retire. And, someone listening to the show right now, you might hear about a plan called the Rob's Plan. And then that's a pretty popular plan, called a rollover business startup. And it's great for, certain people in certain circumstances. There's also other options, right? If you're an entrepreneur, then you most likely qualify for a Rob's Plan, but you also might qualify for a solo 401k. And this plan is pretty unique because it can do, it's almost like a Swiss Army knife. You could actually, use the money from your retirement account, penalty and tax-free, to pay off high interest rate credit card debt. And let me expand on that. There's been people that have come to us where, they have $20,000 in credit card debt and they're paying 19.99% interest, right? You got to love when banks put the interest at 19.999, right? It's like, dude, just put the interest at 20. Like, give me a break, right? So, someone coming to us with really high interest rate debt, and we know that personal debt is bringing their credit score down, right? Because their utilization rate is going up. Meanwhile, they have this retirement account that's making them 7 or 8% a year, let's just say. Well, if on one side of the coin, you're making 7 or 8% a year on your retirement account money, and the other side of the coin, you're losing 20%, you're losing money faster than you're making money. And that could be a problem for a lot of people. And a solution is taking that IRA or 401k, moving into what's called the solo 401k. And then the solo 401k has a loan feature where you actually can take a certain amount of money out, penalty and tax-free, use that money, pay off the high interest rate credit card debt, eliminate the monthly payments that are going to the credit card companies, stop the bleeding on the interest, and now you're just paying your solo 401k back. You're just paying your retirement account back, and there's an interest rate of prime plus 1% to 2%. So we're looking at 4% to 5%. That interest actually goes back to your retirement account. So you're paying yourself back the principal and the interest. So you're replenishing your retirement account so you aren't robbing from your future. And then to kind of sum it all up, what's most important too is your credit score. I wouldn't be where I am today in terms of business if I didn't have the ability to use my credit score as an advantage. I maxed out a lot of 0% credit cards when I started Quest Education. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have a good credit score. And one of the killers that you can have with a credit score that brings it down is just that personal credit card debt. So we've been able to help a lot of people break free from the banks and pay off that nasty high interest rate credit card debt that's stressing you out, keeping you up at night because you're just making the monthly payments and it feels like you're just treading water. Pay off that debt once and for all, get a better credit score. And maybe with a better credit score, you can take advantage of these low interest rates. Like I'm just refinancing my house right now, right? Like interest rates are ultra low.
Yeah.
You can't get cheap money if you don't have a good personal credit score. And that's where the solo 401k might be able to help you.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Especially with the rates the way they are right now. As far as someone that comes to you, are they, who is the best candidate, I guess is the question for your service. So if someone's not sure if they qualify.
Yeah. So a lot of our clients, they have a W-2 job, right? Like they're working corporate. However, they've got this side hustle. They've got this project going on. Maybe it's an online business. Maybe they do consulting work, freelancing work. Maybe they're a realtor on the side and they get 1099 commission. If you have some entrepreneurial activity going on, whether or not you have a day job or not, and this business activity you have going on, there aren't any W-2 employees within that specific picture, then there's a really good chance that you qualify for a solo 401k. And then basically it's just taking your 401k from an old job or an IRA, moving it into the solo 401k. There's no taxable event created there because it's just going from one retirement account into another retirement account. And then from there, it's basically solving some kind of problem. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't sell stocks. I don't sell investments. Our company is not designed that way. We sell solutions. And typically the problems that we help people with when we start working with them, it's either paying off high interest rate credit card debt. Maybe they need some capital for their business. Maybe they need some funding, some inventory product for their business. They just need some capital. The solo 401k can solve that. Or maybe they just want to use the money to invest outside the stock market. Like a lot of our customers are leery of the stock market. The stock market is pretty volatile. We all know we're due for a correction. We know what happened in 2008. We're on this big bull run right now. And, I'm not here to beat up on stocks because I think there's a time and a place for stocks, but I'm seeing a lot of people, Giuseppe, that prefer to have more control over their retirement account. They would prefer to liberate their 401k, free up their IRA, and use the money how they want instead of Wall Street. And maybe they want to use that money to invest in crypto, precious metals, real estate, private equity, private lending, a bunch of those kind of alternative investment options.
Yeah, and there's a very good point there in that when we talk about W-2 employee versus being a business owner, some people would say, well, being a business owner is so much more risky. And then we talk about being an employee, how you are essentially, you have that manager, your manager's dictating your future. They're kind of overseeing you, and you don't know if you're going to get that promotion. You don't know if you're going to get that bonus. It's kind of in their hands. And then we blindly invest in the company's 401k where there's a limited offering. Maybe it's a handful of mutual funds. So this is definitely a way to, as you mentioned, liberate and being able to, whatever avenue you go through, to use those funds as you see fit, which I think is a big bonus, because in your company's 401k, meaning when you're a W-2 employee, you can't just opt out and say, I'm going to just use this money to invest in a franchise or a business. You do have to invest in whatever's being offered. So I come from the investment world, so I'm very familiar. And we used to tell everyone, never take your money, growing up, never take your money out of your 401k. You need to leave it there until you retire. But then as I became more and more educated over the years, or I should say informed, realized there are other and better options. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I mean, and there's two sides of that coin, right? I mean, like, you're really savvy, and your listeners probably get this too. There's a reason why we were taught that, right? Like, there's a reason why we are being told, leave your retirement account the way it is. Don't touch it. That's for when you retire. That's Wall Street, right? Like, they don't want you to touch the money because they make money off of the fees. They don't make money when you use your retirement account to fund your business.
Sure. They
don't care about your business, right? They care about their fees. That's how they feed their family, right? And it is what it is. That's their business model, right? So a solo 401k, a Rob's plan, self-directed retirement accounts, freeing up your money and using your retirement accounts how you want. Right. That doesn't bode well in their company meetings, right? They don't want to see that. So there's that. But the point I do agree with Wall Street is, they use the word opportunity cost. If you take money out of your solo 401k or you use a Rob's plan to invest in your business, technically that money could be invested in the stock market, for example, and there's compound interest and all that, which there's some truth to that. So there is that opportunity cost. You need to make sure if you do, and again, I'm not here to give financial advice. It's everyone's situation is a little bit different, but if you're going to access your money and pull it out penalty and tax free, make sure you're using that money in a wise manner. Right. And I think there's a lot to be said if you're going to use the money to pay off 20% interest rate credit card debt. I mean, like, what's the point of investing, making 7, 8, 9% a year if you're paying 20% interest to the banks and your credit score stinks? Right. So they're just kind of, it comes down to everyone's personal situation. Correct.
Yeah. And that's what I tell everyone. There are, in my opinion, sometimes better solutions for certain things, but it all depends on your risk tolerance, your current situation, and things like that. So, for example, do I invest in stock or keep it in a savings account? I'll say every day of the week. It depends on if you're going to be stressed out of your mind worrying about the stock market, keep it in a savings account. You have a better quality of life, as I jokingly say, because it's not, some people just cannot handle the risk, and it's just, that's the way they're hardwired. And I leave it at that. So, you can educate to a certain extent, but that person has to eventually make their own decision. So switching gears a little bit. And at the end of the show, I want to talk about just how anyone can reach you if they have questions. I don't know if you do a consultation, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Talk to us a little bit about, people get nervous, when they own a business, they start the business great, but then they have to start hiring employees. And in many of our franchises, you can start on your own as the business owner. And as you start scaling, you start adding employees, and people get a little bit nervous. They've never done it before. They hear about the job market, and the job market's been crazy to find just quality candidates. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think you had mentioned you have 12 or 13 employees right now, and kind of what does that look like? And if you could just kind of educate or inform the audience a little bit.
Yeah, so two things come to my mind. One is, in the very beginning, it's really easy to just wing it, right? Like your processes and systems are weak. The mission maybe isn't clear. It's everyone and anyone with a heartbeat is a client, right? And you learn through failing that you realize that you're not for everyone. And you get to a point where you sell a client, you onboard a customer, and you just realize that they're a pain in the butt and the value proposition isn't there. Right. And it's costing more money and time than it's worth it. Right. So I think number one, nailing down like who you're for and who your ideal client is and who you can show the most value to, and then centering your messaging and how you help them around them is really important. I learned the hard way there. Two, being super clear on your core values. You don't need to have 10 employees to have core values, right? Maybe it's just you. Maybe it's just you and somebody else, right? Just have those set core values in place, because once you start hiring, and then when you're hiring, you're also dealing with firing, right? Like firing people is part of the business. Now you're just taking the emotions out of it. You're just hiring and firing based off of what you believe in, what your core values are, what the company's core values are. And it helps with the decision-making process. And then number three, I think where I see a lot of people struggle with this, and, it's something that I have gotten better at. I wouldn't say I'm perfect at it, but I've made a lot of progress, is just delegating. Right? Like in the very beginning, it's easy to do payroll and pay vendors and sell and do customer service and do fulfillment and do bookkeeping. Like you're doing QuickBooks. Like, stop it, right? Like write down all the things that you do in the day and how many of those things actually bring in revenue. Right. And then prioritize those things that bring in revenue. What's the number one revenue generating task that you do? And write that down. And then there's going to be a bunch of tasks that don't generate revenue. And a lot of people have a problem delegating the non-revenue generating tasks to other people because it costs them money. Well, you doing a task that doesn't generate revenue for the company, you could take that same time and put it into a task that generates revenue for the company. So it's costing you more money, you doing something that's not making the company money, because you could take that time and spend it on revenue generating activities, right? So a lot of people have a problem, investing the money because they just look at it from a different perspective. And then they also don't want to delegate. They don't want to relinquish control. It's like, well, I can do it better than anyone else and I can do it really fast. Let me just do it. That's going to be a sure way to keep you small. But then also, how are you ever going to go on vacation with your family and actually be away? Right? Like you're always going to be checking your phone. You're the bottleneck. Everything goes through you. You're checking your emails. You're responding to clients. And here you are at Disneyland with your kid and your wife, and your family's looking at you like, really? But that's a decision you made along the way to put yourself to that position. So I would say those three things in terms of being very clear on who you are serving, who your ideal client is, and being very specific. And then two, having core values to help you scale as you're making decisions based off of your hiring and firing process. And then three, just delegating those non-revenue generating activities. Even though they're not generating revenue, they're still important. They need to be done. But you know where you need to be as the driver of the bus for your business.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you have to go back to why the heck did we get into business? There's much easier avenues. You could just kept your job and got your paycheck and had your weekends off. But You got into business to create something. There was a need, there was a void. And that was, for me, not just financial freedom, but it was time freedom to spend with my family. So defeats the purpose. And now with technology, we've looked at virtual assistants. We had someone on the show, and you can create a Loom video and say, this is how I want my books, this is how for my bookkeeper, just say, and I don't have a bookkeeper, but if I did, this is a Loom video, or this is how I want my podcast edited. So if you could spend the day and create videos and have other people kind of do it. There are other people that can edit and do bookkeeping. We get it. As a first-time business owner, you may think you're the only one, but yes, there are people that are much more qualified than us to handle these tasks. So, and to your point, yes, you are. 1 hour of bookkeeping is pulling away an hour from your family, an hour from a sales call, which is generating revenue. So I think it's people know. I think they need to be reminded, especially that first year in business. So shows like this are great, and say, okay, let me take a step back and maybe let me eliminate one task that I'm doing right now that I can delegate. So I think it's a nice reminder. Tell us, so kind of going back, so a couple last things. Number one, how does someone has additional questions, they want to know more about a solo 401k or, anything we discussed today, if they want to get in touch with you, what is the best way?
Best way would be going to my website. It's danielblue.me. So it's Daniel, Daniel, and then blue, just like the color, .me. And my website's got a bunch of different information. You can buy my book. It's called Blueprint to Your Best Retirement. Ended up hitting Amazon bestseller. And the book is a simple, easy to digest, short book that teaches people how to access their money penalty and tax free, using a solo 401k and self-directed retirement account. So some of the things that we briefly talked about on this show, I dive a little bit deeper, but it's not too technical. It's not going to overwhelm you. It's easy to digest. And when you get done reading it, you're going to be able to take some action and see some results. So you can pick up that book on Kindle or paperback. And then also my course is on there. I've got a course. Mm-hmm. I've got a podcast called How Winners Win. The mission on that podcast is to help people win in their personal life, their business life, their financial life. So I've been having a lot of fun on the podcast. We drop an episode every week. And then if you have a 401k from an old job or an IRA and the idea of accessing the money in a penalty and tax free to do some of the things that I described, if that kind of perked your ears, you can click the link on my website to Quest Education, my company's website, and just fill out some information, some brief information, and someone from my team would reach out to you, and it'd be a non-pressured, easy peasy call where we can see if this is something that we can help out with. Awesome.
So we will put all that information, the podcast, the book, the website, everything in the show notes. Anything else you'd like to mention that we didn't discuss today to the audience? For the audience?
I think we covered everything, man. It was a pleasure being on the show, and hopefully there's at least one person that was able to take some value from this and see some awesome results. Awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. We'll definitely get the show up in the next few weeks. All the information for Daniel will be in the show notes. Daniel, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate your time today. Hey, Giuseppe, thank you again. Thanks, man. Take care.